Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel. This is my VR for day, I think like 24 and 26 of the 31 days of Witchcraft. So yesterday I was getting caught up and I skipped one by accident. So I'm going to sort that out today. And then I'm also going to do today's prompt. So the first one that I hadn't answered yet was if I am out of the broom closet. And kind of. I've got another video I watched very much in my head, and I just want to say yes to all of that. And I know I mentioned her yesterday, but I got her channel totally wrong. So Aquamarine 18, I believe, or Aquamarine 81. God, my memory's the worst in the morning. But at least I got the name right this time. It's definitely the crystal. It's definitely the crystal. Anyway, I was just watching her response to this question, which was so thoughtful and well done, as she's been the whole way through this series. I've really been enjoying her channel. But anyway, I really have a lot of similar beliefs and experiences around the idea of closets being like you're not really fully in or out most of the time, I feel like. Or at least I haven't been fully in or out most of the time. Even when I was very much closeted from a, like, not from a witchy perspective, but from a sexuality perspective, even when I would have considered myself fairly closeted, there was always one or two people in my life that knew, or the closest people in my life that knew. I tend to perceive closets, or this idea of being closeted, as like what you can, like, to me, it's more about the general feeling. How do I say this? In my own words. Essentially, it's like feeling like you need to keep it secret all the time, or your circumstances require that you keep it secret all the time, or it just feels more comfortable to keep it secret all the time. And as Laura said, I don't believe there's anything wrong with that. I think everybody's circumstances are different, and as with sexuality, it's a very personal decision, who you share your life with and how much of it you share, whether we're talking about your spiritual path, your craft, your sexuality, your gender identity, whatever it is. I don't necessarily think that it's a requirement that you're somehow doing better if you're out versus if you're in some sort of closet situation. And I think that's important to say, because I think we do tend to assume that it is better, easier, nicer to be out than to be in. And the reality is that my experience in queerness, for example, there was a very loud vehicle. That was a very, very loud vehicle. Anyway, my experience with queerness has very much been a situation where I feel like I'm coming out all the time. In fact, when I'm not with Peggy, I tend to be read as straight. And this was a problem actually throughout my entire queer journey, and is probably a topic that I could talk about quite a bit, and I won't. But there's a term for it, which is femme invisibility. And I've actually written an article that's been published on this topic. But in essence, I've spent a lot of years wanting so desperately to be read queer and being read very straight. And that's been an issue, interestingly. So out versus in, I'm sorry, I sidetracked, because that's a whole thing that I can get kind of riled up about. But when it comes to my craft, I kind of approach it the same way I approached initially. No, I shouldn't say that. I kind of approach it the same way I eventually approached my queer outness, which is that I live my life in a normal way to me, and I don't personally choose to hide anything most of the time. And there's a bit of a caveat there that I'll get into. And then if people have questions, I let them ask. As an example, instead of coming out on the job, I put wedding pictures on my desk, and people will ask or they won't ask. But it's pretty obvious, I think, to most people, when you put a wedding picture up with two women, that you're probably gay. So it helps for me to approach things that way. Similarly, I don't go out of my way to avoid using words like wife, for example. I don't say spouse or partner on purpose, because to me, it feels important for me to talk about Peggy as my wife, and then let other people have their moment or whatever, and if they ask, they ask. But it feels a lot more normalized to me than treating it like something that I shouldn't feel like I need to divulge, because it's not like, and again, I'm back on queerness because I think it's a relevant example. It's not like straight people are going to come up and be like, hey, by the way, I'm straight. They're just going to live their life, and they're going to assume you're going to assume, right? So I kind of try to do the same thing. And I found that to be a very, very healthy approach for me personally. And Peggy feels very similarly. I don't want to speak for her, but I know that her approach has been similar as well for the most part. So I took a very similar approach for the most part with my craft. I will say that there was a plea for attention from a biological father when I was like 19, where I was really upset with him and sent him a letter and was like, I'm gay and I'm a witch. That's the most out I've ever like coming out, I guess, that I've ever done on either of those 2 points. And it's funny that I actually did them together. I actually think for both in fact, I know for my mom, it was a lot harder for her to cope with the witch thing than the gay thing. Pretty sure it was the same case for my dad, but not, I don't know. Anyway, sidetrack. So I have done that, but I was also very young. Let's keep that in mind. Nowadays, I don't hide anything. I have pentacles around my home. I don't feel like I need to cover up or hide my witchy books when people come over, no matter who they are. I have a tarot deck that I keep. Actually, I'm very, very out about tarot. My boss actually thinks it's kind of funny, and he doesn't get it. He's very not into any woo kind of stuff at all. And so we have laughing conversations about it, and like he'll tease me a little bit in the best, most warm-hearted kind of way. In fact, I remember when I was asking for vacation time to go to the Northwest Tarot Symposium, I just said, oh, blah, 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 I'd like to take some vacation in March. I didn't tell him what it was for yet. And he's like, oh, is it for tarot? And I was like, yeah, I'm speaking at a convention. And he's like, oh, yeah, then you can definitely go. Because he's so curious. It's so cute, actually. Anyway, so I do keep like a tarot deck on my desk. It's a fairly innocuous one called the Art of Life Tarot, and it's got like a little photo stand. Some of you may have seen it, but you can draw a card and then put it in a little holder and it looks like a picture frame, and that's perfect for on my desk at work. But I definitely don't hide things. I have literally on my desk at work, I have like paper clips, binder clips, 4 of my witchy magical oils, and a lava stone bracelet so that I can charge up as I need throughout the day. I've got a star tarot card on display. So I'm not over and it's funny because there was a time I would have felt like that was over the top, because I was just about to say, I'm not over the top with it, but to some people I may be considered very over the top with it. But the way I approach being out of the broom closet, so to speak, is essentially I just live my life. I do my normal stuff. If I wear a pentacle, I don't hide it, or a pendant, I don't hide it. I don't feel like I have a goddess tattoo, triple moon tattoo, in a pretty visible spot on my body, and I don't hide it. And I just let people, if somebody were to ask me, like nobody has, somebody were to say, oh, are you pagan? Or oh, are you a witch? I'd be like, yeah. I think I'd be like that. And there would definitely be situations, and I think we don't say this enough though, there would definitely be situations where I would maybe gloss it over, or maybe not answer the question, or maybe just, I don't know, avoid it somehow. I think there's definitely situations where you're not going to be comfortable talking about your spiritual beliefs or your path. And I think that's completely valid. And I don't think we owe people a yes or a no to these questions when they ask either. But in general, I'm fairly, just like I am on this channel, I'm very much an open book. In fact, I actually find it really challenging not to overshare most of the time. It's just, I've talked about this before on this channel, and I'm very babbly this morning, apparently, because I'm 9 minutes in, and I'm still answering the first question. But from probably the time I was about 23, when a big part of me that I'd repressed burst open, like basically a dam breaking. It was interesting times. But since then, I've really sort of embraced I have embraced authenticity and vulnerability as core values. And when I say that, and I know I could go on and on and on, and I probably should make a whole video talking about that, but it's one of those things where it's kind of important to my personal well-being to not hide pieces of me, to not suppress my story, to not be silenced. These are big, important things for me day to day, and those values don't always make other people comfortable, and that's something that I have to navigate on the regular, and that is mine to navigate. And sometimes, anyway, I'm I'm off to the races in my mind. Okay, I'm going to reel it back in, Lisa. Reel it back in. So, broom closet. I would say if I had to answer yes or no and no explanation, I would just say no, because I just live my life and I don't really try to hide anything. But there's definitely situations and people where I wouldn't feel it's appropriate to talk about, where I wouldn't want to talk about it. I'm not going to go to, like, say, an extended family gathering. This is hypothetical, by the way. I wouldn't go to some extended family gathering where everybody was, say, super, like, fundamentalist Christian or something, and start waving my witch flag around, because that, like, there's a point at which I feel like it's not necessary, and it can impede things if, I don't know, I'm not saying it right. I hope some of you understand what I'm saying, because I guess what I'm trying to point out is that I don't always feel the need to broadcast my life or my beliefs, and I don't feel ashamed of that at all. I think for a lot of us, there's definitely people in our lives, maybe a grandparent or somebody who we don't want to rock the boat. Like, and it's not necessary. Maybe the relationship isn't close enough where that makes sense to do. Or maybe, maybe there's another reason why that's just somebody you don't want to have that conversation with. Maybe what relationship you do have is really, really cherished, but also kind of tenuous, and you don't want to see that strand break because of being out in whatever fashion you want to be out. So there's so many nuances to this conversation, obviously, because I'm talking for 12 minutes, and also very much inspired by how well thought out and beautifully put Aquamarine's response to this was. But yeah, there's my thoughts on the closet, sort of. I really feel like I could make like an hour-long video talking about all these topics. And I wonder if those of us who have dealt with other types of closets tend to come at this conversation from a much more, like, complex place. Because I think if I was just dealing with my spirituality, it would feel simpler somehow. But having navigated... Oh, that's what I was saying. Sorry. Anyways, yes, having navigated... I'm not gonna squirrel myself. Having navigated the queer closet for, like, decades, and really the witch closet at the same time, because I really discovered paganism and my queerness around the same time. In fact, one sort of led to the other in a way, because I sort of had a messy breakup with Christianity around the time that I was coming to terms with my sexuality. So those two things came hand in hand. And I actually don't think... I'm still scrolling, whatever. I actually don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of people who maybe had a strong faith or felt like they had a strong connection to spirituality of any kind of Abrahamic sort. I think a lot of us struggle if we also had to deal with sexuality stuff. At least at the time that I was dealing with it, which would have been about, 24 years ago. Gross. So long ago. Anyway, okay, I'm going to move on. And then I'm going to try to remember to actually upload this video right away instead of waiting all day like I did yesterday. I totally forgot about it yesterday. Anyway, I said anyway so many times. The next question, maybe this is why I talked about this so long. The next question is so easy. It's basically, is divination a part of your craft? And if so, like, I think which types of divination tools? Yes, it's very much a part of my craft. Welcome to my mostly tarot channel. Yes, divination is a part of my craft. That just cracked me up. I think there's going to be a lot of short responses to this question in this community, because so many of us are like, we've got tarot channels. Yes. So divination, yes, definitely. Tarot is my number one. Well, tarot and oracle, any kind of card divination would be my number one. But I also do path working and astral travel, which in a way is a type of divination at times, although maybe not. Maybe that's a stretch. I work with runes and witches' runes, both Nordic and witches' runes, I should say, and pendulums. The longest, I've been working with cards and pendulums. Those are the two things I've used the longest from a divination perspective. I've done some scrying, but I don't do very much because I do struggle with it. And my brain struggles with it not being like I want it to be, which is, I want it to be like in the Mists of Avalon, where you like look into the water and you see scenes. That's what I want. And I know it's not realistic, and I know that's not what scrying is, and I need to make a video about scrying apparently. But I really want it to be that. So I think part of me just kind of rebels against what scrying actually is like. And sometimes I do better with scrying into things like smoke or candle flames because they move and they give me a little more of that sensation. Anyway, I'm very chatty today. So I'm going to wrap this up. I have so much more to say on both of these topics, honestly. But yes, divination, a big part of my practice. And it's very rare for me actually to also have any kind of ritual for the Sabbath or for a full moon or for necessity or whatnot, where cards, where a reading doesn't come into play. So yes, integral part of my craft for sure. Could I have a craft without divination? Absolutely. And I have, because like many, I think, who've been into tarot for a long, long time, there was a few years where I barely touched my cards at all. Only in like times of like really great need or like big turmoil did I reach for my cards, but it was really infrequent for about, I want to say like 5 to 8 years. I had essentially like a gap where I had only a few decks. I'd gotten rid of a lot of my extra ones and I just reached for my deck on a need like a first aid kit, right? That's how I would reach for my decks. So I had a craft that was pretty strong even when I wasn't reading regularly. But yes, definitely yes. Okay, I'm going to stop because I'm like over 15 minutes, which is really long for this particular type of video. So I'm going to leave it. We've only got a couple more days in May. I'm thinking about maybe continuing this whole morning car video thing. Not necessarily every day, but maybe every once in a while to chat about random topics that come to mind, or possibly to pull a card if people would be into that. Or maybe some kind of combo of both, because I kind of like the conversational chatty style of these and the fact that I can just put up my phone. It's not all the setup that I do for my other videos and things. And yeah, so I may do this occasionally. I'm not sure yet. Maybe I'll do it on Instagram if I can figure out that IGTV thing. Maybe I'll do them as lives and have like little morning chats every once in a while. I don't know. I'm just bouncing around different ideas. So if you have any thoughts, let me know down below. If you have thoughts about closets or thoughts about divination in practice, leave it down below. Or if you are doing VRs to the hashtag 31 days of witchcraft and you haven't seen any comments from me, poke me a little bit, because either I've watched your videos and I haven't commented, which is possible, or I haven't stumbled on your videos yet for some reason, and I would like to check them out because these have been really, really enjoyable. I'm kind of sad to see it coming to a wrap in a couple of days, so yeah. In any case, please remember to do any kind of engagement on my channel that you feel comfortable with, whether that's liking this video if you enjoyed the content, sharing it with a friend, or hitting that subscribe button if you're new here. I do put up videos at least 4 times a week, most weeks. I tend to upload a lot, so I typically upload Tuesdays, Thursdays. I do my weekly deck reviews on Saturdays, and on Sundays I do a series called Tarot by the Book. And I have some other fun series on this channel, like the Tarot Anti-Hauls that I started here, or the Say Yes to the Deck series that I started here. So lots of fun things. I'm also going to be doing an updated deck collection really, really soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Remember, if you want to book a reading with me, you can do that over at supportivetarot.com. Thanks, guys. Bye!